Welcome back everybody, welcome to the garden. Today we're getting in the garden because there are so many garden jobs that I want to get going with that I keep putting off. This summer has been a summer of doing lots in the garden, but not the main things that I wanted to start with. And I thought it would be fun to show you around. It is September currently, so it's kind of the end of summer, beginning of autumn, and the leaves are falling. The plants are changing. There's still definitely lots of flowers in our flower beds, which is nice. But I thought I would sort of go around the garden, do a little bit and show you what our plans are. And maybe this time next year I can reflect and see how much has changed. I'm looking forward to the things that we're going to be doing in here because it's been something I've wanted to do for so long. If some of you saw when we did lots of work on our patio, we also planted lots in the flower beds. I'm really happy with what we planted. We moved lots of the roses from, well, originally the roses were actually along in these flower beds before we renovated. We moved them when we were renovating the patio because I really didn't want them to be killed. And then I moved them back. I changed my mind. I did put hydrangeas in these beds and they did not like it. So we've moved the roses back, and then I followed a David Austin guide on what to plant with roses and just literally copied it, and it's worked out really well because we've got a variety of colours and they still look really lovely now. Next year hopefully they'll get even bigger and fill out, and there'll be bulbs that will come through in spring, and I can kind of finesse it and address it and change things up next year as well and fill things out, because now it's starting to sort of go over a little bit. You can see the roses at the back. This one stopped flowering. This one is still very happy. We've got cosmos, lots of geraniums, this aster, which was a really good thing to plant because it was a late blooming flower. So it looks lovely and it fills out a really nice space for September. And there are quite a few gaps. I need to tidy this up. This is part of the job I need to do, is tidy and clear this up. But for the fact that this is late September, I feel like it still looks very lovely and colourful. And the back is kind of reserved slightly for spring bulbs. And then we've got our lovely jasmine here. And then if we move over here, we have basically the same thing kind of mirrored. You can see this aster is much bigger. It's slightly different but similar. And the roses on this side really didn't do well. He has, I think, died, so I might need to replace him next year. And this one never really flowered. They may need to be addressed next year. It may just be they just didn't do so well. This one seems to have a disease. And then this guy, he was really happy this summer, and then it looked beautiful against our Virginia creeper because this was a red rose. And then we've got our amazing wisteria, which is a labour of love. We really cut it back this year, and I hope it means we'll have amazing blooms next May, because it was going all the way up to the top and we cut it all the way down. And I love when the creeper turns red. This weekend we moved 2 trees. Can you hear the horses clip-clopping past? Yeah, we moved these 2 trees. The jury is out on whether they will survive. We've got a star magnolia, and then I think this is a common dogwood. We moved them because I'll show you around the corner. It was very overwhelmed with trees and they weren't very happy. We've got a big laurel bush that needs desperately to be trimmed, and there is a palm tree, a peach tree and an oak tree in the very near vicinity. And when we did this patio, we had to build this large sleeper wall, which kept going higher and higher because of the fact that our garden is on a slope. And when we built this section of the patio, we had to compensate basically and just keep building upwards, which in hindsight, I really wish that I had properly planned the patio. I think in my mind, I thought it was quite a simple job, just pave the area. And I didn't think about the slope on the garden and then this sleeper wall. I originally thought it'd just be a few sleepers and it wouldn't be that visible, but it's very visible, and so I knew all along I wanted to cover it with something. So we have planted these trees. Fingers crossed they survive. I really want them to. They weren't happy where they were. I hope they don't go into shock and die because it was quite a challenge and we're not experts. I'm a total kind of give it my best and see what happens gardener. I don't have all the knowledge and I'm just embracing, learning as I get older. I'm still, only had a big garden like this for a few years, so I hope I'll get better as time goes on. We'll see, we'll have to check back in next year, see if they have died and we've had to replace them, or if they have blossomed. I don't want to fill it out too much because I know that these sleepers, they need to dry because I don't want them to go rotten. So if you cover it too much with plants, it will get very wet. I was thinking maybe some flowers, maybe a few little bushes, just to cover it and make it feel a lot softer and kind of like it's buried into the garden rather than a big wall that's very visible. So this is the wall, as you can see, and I've just walked just down here. This was where the trees were. You can kind of see it's a bit of a mess, work in progress. We had the star magnolia there and the common dogwood there, and as you can see there's a large peach tree here, and then there's an oak tree, and then we've also got a Japanese honeysuckle, all in a very small area. I can only assume that over time different owners have planted different trees, or they were very small and they've just got bigger. And then obviously we've got this big laurel bush, so both of those trees were arching forwards trying to get light, and one of them actually, when I scanned it on my Picture This app, said it was sick. This area now, my vision is to clear it, put a bench here, because we've actually got a lovely Cornish wall that's kind of visible, and just make it a little kind of hidden area. Maybe we could just put a few low flowers that don't mind shade, and maybe hydrangeas. And we've also got this obviously huge palm tree, which is very Cornish, and that was taking up a lot of the light, so it just wasn't the best area to have literally 1, 2, 3, 4 trees and then those laurels. This is potentially one of the bigger jobs, which I'm going to actually start today. I've been harping on about this to you for so long, about getting rid of this trellis. Loads of you have said it's so lovely, don't get rid of it. I just am not a huge fan. As you can see, one of the pieces has fallen out. It rotted at the base and fell out. We tried to fix it and it's not fixable because the actual thing in the ground is rotted, or rusted, sorry. It's like metal. I love the gate, so we actually are keeping this. We're just moving it to the little kind of walkway between our annex and our house, so that you have a little magical introduction to the garden. But I don't like the garden being split in half. Loads of people, often when they come, they say, is that someone else's garden? Because it almost feels like it's a separate space. And I want to just open it up so we can see the apple trees and so we can see the veg beds, and then eventually this area can be where a greenhouse lives. I'm actually forgetting and remembering I've just mentioned about putting a bench there. That's actually where we would like to put the greenhouse. So we've got an oak tree, peach tree. We can't really put it there because it will be shaded, but this area here in the garden would be perfect to house a greenhouse. So the idea is greenhouse like this. Let me know if you have any contradictions. Keep in mind this will all be gone. I think potentially we might get somebody to actually move this tree because it doesn't really make sense here. It's competing with the oak tree. But yeah, if we had a greenhouse here, we can see it from our house. This is our kitchen, so I can like see it, and it's not right down at the bottom of the garden. Originally I had thought to put it at the bottom of the garden, and my dad said you may be less tempted to go if it's all the way down the bottom, which I agree. Now we're down to the bottom of the garden where we have 16 vegetable beds. I gave it my best shot the first year we moved in. We planted, we were enthusiastic. I got potatoes, salads, carrots. I really went for it, but without a greenhouse it was a little bit of a challenge, and every single windowsill in my home was filled with seedlings. And then I realised very quickly how overwhelming it was to have so many veg beds. So next year, if we get a greenhouse, my dad actually very luckily got one on Facebook Marketplace, which I would love to try and do. I would like to basically just focus on maybe 6 to 8 of them, and then the other ones, if you have any brilliant ideas of what I could plant in there that would be literally plant once and don't have to think about it. I'm thinking maybe pumpkins. We've got one which is filled with nasturtiums, just something that doesn't require harvesting and weeding, but is something that could fill the bed so they're not just sitting there. And then just focus on food in half. And then as I become more experienced and knowledgeable, I can explore doing a few more. But yeah, right now we have basically left them to do their own thing. Out of sight and out of mind has been my approach this year. I've been doing so much gardening, and yet there's still so much that I don't have time to do because I was focusing on the top of the house. Here we have our compost heap, which is a mess, and our oak tree that is really struggling to fill out the space. We've got a big laurel tree behind it. It's fighting against the peach tree and the honeysuckle and the trellis, and ideally I just want the oak tree to be thriving and us to shape it so it's this really noticeable part of the garden. Tidy up the compost heap, and then the idea would be we'd have our compost and then our greenhouse here. And then obviously as you walk down, we've got veg bed after veg bed after veg bed, which, yeah, you may be looking at this and think this is crazy, but to be honest, it was quite deliberate that we did this. I know lots of people would probably prefer to keep it tidy, but I just thought that for the effort, I didn't really understand what the point would be. I'd rather let it die out over winter and start fresh next year if I'm not actively using them. You can see I've definitely put some cardboard down, which I will do over winter to prepare for next year. As you can see, we've got nasturtiums and rhubarb. And then down here was originally where I thought we might put a greenhouse. However, it's so far down the bottom of the garden and it's very wet down here. I just think I wouldn't come down here some days. Not to mention that we have got that lovely big giant rhubarb. What's it called? I always forget what it's called, which looks lovely. This all needs to be trimmed, and we need to think of some plan here that this doesn't become such a mess or such a huge effort for us to tidy up. And then we do have a fruit cage, which we have never really used. It's been like this since we moved, where it's falling apart a little bit. I mean, one day I would absolutely love to have chickens and use this as a chicken coop. It's just so bottom of the list. My dream is that this would be the chicken coop and then this would be their outdoor area and we would connect the two, but we'll see. And then here is where we have our two humongous apple trees, which have loads of apples to pick. I did pick them last weekend, but there's so many more to pick still. It's not been as fruitful as it was last year, but still so many apples, and they really need a good old trim in January. And I love this area. Can you hear the horses? And then put some wildflower down. And this could be an area we don't really have to mow because it can be an area for wildlife, which would be amazing. This is where our house is next to just the road, which is not very busy, mainly just horses. And we've got lots of trees here. We've got apple trees, like 2 more apple trees. We have got a apple blossom tree, and I can't remember the name of it. I'll put it on screen, but it's a beautiful yellow tree that is like one of the first to bloom in spring, and I look forward to it every year. It's just so beautiful. Some hydrangeas, a camellia, and this area is also a little overcrowded. So this tree here, I did prune this summer because it was really overgrown on the bottom, and it's looking much better. We've got a rhododendron. This is the apple blossom, and then there's another apple there, the camellia. And then this was the yellow tree that I was talking about that I've forgotten the name of. So this area is not that important, but I would also probably like to trim it back and maybe think about moving some of these trees as well, because this apple tree definitely is not very happy. Look at him reaching. Yeah, it just probably is not the best place for him. And this camellia really needs to be trimmed. We did trim it, but it's gone wild again. But you can see how close these two are to one another. And I just think it just doesn't make for a very happy plant. So all advice very much welcome. So that's kind of like my mini overview. I wanted to do that before I begun, so you have a kind of a picture in your mind of what the garden looks like. I know it can be hard to kind of tell in videos, and it's also nice for me to document so I can look back at it. Excuse all the crows, it's the afternoon and they always tend to crow at this time. It's like 5 o'clock. But we've lived here for 3 years, we've done lots. We really did focus on the patio and that area, and there was a period of time in which we didn't have the best access to the garden because of that. So it's been primarily me and Alex doing it. So we're learning, we're growing. I want to dedicate more time to it, definitely, because I end up, my days get run away with themselves, and then so do my weekends. But I do, generally speaking, try and spend at least like half a day a week on the garden, and still it looks quite overgrown and messy. But you know, that's part of it. It's a work in progress. It's always evolving and always changing. I hope that I can share this with you, and then maybe by the time we have shared lots more in the next year, we'll be able to see all the different changes and exciting things that come in the garden. But today I really want to start removing this trellis because it has been on my list for so long. This is the area that I am proud of because it looks so pretty. I want more of this feel to the rest of the garden, more colour, more blooms and flowers. There is actually one more area to show you. Down here is our little seating area. We planted, I'm pretty sure it was in spring, all of these along here. So we've got some nice grasses and lavenders, and I really do want to trim these. I did do that actually quite recently, but they have gone mad. They are really, really happy here actually, which is really nice. And this is the view from this area of our patio. One day also it would be beautiful to have a border along here, but that is probably going to be quite an expensive and big job to do. But I would love to one day because I think that would add a lot of colour.
I think I'm done for today. It's about 5:30, but it is Friday afternoon, evening, and I would like a pizza and a shower, and we'll probably continue this tomorrow. But that's kind of what I wanted to get done today, the trellisy bits, and hopefully I'll be able to unscrew the poles and it won't be a problem, but they look pretty rusty, so who knows. I've also done a weird makeshift winch for this tree because he was kind of falling over, I think because the soil wasn't compacted enough and it rained a lot. Same with that one, they're looking a bit sad. I don't know, I hope they'll be alright. Got to get some soil or find some soil or buy some topsoil and stamp it down, and then hopefully they won't get blown over in the thunderstorms again.
Good Sunday afternoon. First thing, can we please appreciate how amazing these dungarees are? For any gardeners out there, Lucy and Yak sent me these and they have embroidered flowers all over them. The table's in the way, but they're nice culottes. Keep in mind I am tall, so they're a bit shorter on me. If you're more average height, they'd probably be a bit longer, but I kind of feel like that's quite flexible, especially for like wellies and stuff. But this is my new gardening dungarees and I love them. I've got my coat on and I'm going to do some stuff in the garden today. We have made loads of progress with the trellis. It's kind of half down now. 4 to go, maybe 5, and then we've got to figure out the gate. We're going to be reusing that gate, the lovely arched gate to go down the side of the annex. There's like a walkway, so it's kind of like a nice little entrance, because there used to be a gate there but it was fitted wrong. It was like a small gate on a tall frame, so I think that would be really lovely, and we can grow something over it. I also moved a couple roses, so I can show you the roses. I have a feeling that the trees that we planted are dead, but we'll see for next spring. I hoped, but they wouldn't have been able to stay where they were anyway because it's all very cramped. And yeah, I'm feeling quite positive about the progress we're making. I was brainstorming with my dad this morning about our greenhouse and where it could go. The issue in our garden is like how sloped it is. So if any of you have any advice about like putting a greenhouse on a sloped garden, about how to level it without having to do a massive concrete base, which seems, I don't know, we may have to reconsider where I'm putting it. Maybe it needs to go at the bottom of the garden where it's a bit flatter. But let me show you the roses that I've planted and kind of what I'm going to be doing today. I'm also looking at this rose and it doesn't look very happy. I bought some like rose ointment-y thing for things like black spot and diseases. This looks like it's been attacked by a caterpillar. This is what I mean about there's like black spot, which I know is so common, but definitely something's been eating this. So I think I need to just trim him back. And also these, the aster. We have potted up some of my box plants. They aren't shaped though. I got these really reduced in a garden centre, and hopefully they'll fill out and then I can shape them into balls, but they weren't planted and they hadn't been for so long. So I finally got round to it. This lovely barrel was where they were living. I just had 2 of them shoved in there, not planted. I've now been able to use this lovely barrel, and I got a piece of bamboo from the bottom of the garden and then planted this huge rose which was on the trellis. And on the trellis it did not look this big, but when you actually put it on here you realise how huge it is. We attached an extra wire across so that it can grow up, and I'm hoping it survives. Well, I think it should do. And then next year I'm hoping that it can kind of grow and attach and have lots of flowers. And it is a pinky red rose, so it should look lovely against the blue. You can see the progress of the wisteria making its way across. I feel like it was only to here when we first attached it, and now it's making its way, so hopefully it'll go all the way across there, and then it kind of goes across from the house, which is quite cute. And this is the walkway I was referring to, with the bin there full of all the remnants of the honeysuckle. So we either are going to put the gate here from the trellis or at that end. I'm not decided which yet. I feel like it's probably going to have to go at this end, but it should be really cute. Everything's looking very autumnal. All the leaves have fallen. This is the magnolia that we planted. Is it a snowflake magnolia? It's looking a bit sad, though actually these are the lovely soft buds that come through, and they look pretty new and they look quite healthy. And maybe it's just accelerated the speed at which the leaves have fallen, because obviously they do fall off at this time of year, so maybe moving it has accelerated that. I moved this rose as well so he can grow up this, and hopefully we can kind of train it. We might put some wires across to train it to kind of grow across, but it's quite a nice large rose. And this is a pink one, if my memory says correctly. Can I tell? Yes, it is a pink one. And then this is the dogwood, which I feel like will be fine. I'm looking at it now again, like the leaves have come off, and maybe I'll eat my words in winter and it dies, but I feel like this one almost looks more upright and more alive than that one does. We shall see though, we shall see. These posts have come out. Here is some more rose that I need to move. There's one rose here, and then I'm not sure what this plant is. I spoke to someone, actually I didn't tell you. Look at these huge bits of concrete that the posts were in. And this was just a big stone in here. They were dug very deep. I've cleared all of the brambles that were going across here and around the back. We've got to make a decision about this fruit cage. We've never really used it, probably because we never looked after it. I'm assuming the best thing to do is to cut it back every year. But it's obviously, all the mesh has broken. Okay, this is where I'm going to stop for the day. Alex is digging up another post and I have managed to clear 5 beds, 5.5. This bin is full, which is why I'm stopping. I don't want to put too much of this waste into the compost. I do have one bin which is specifically for like the rubbish waste, so stuff that's not food, so I don't use it on the compost, so like stinging nettles and weeds. But this is just way too much. It's just gonna fill it right up. So I'm gonna stop there. See you in the next video where we're gonna try and tackle the rest and try and make this area just like fresh for winter, so that I can actually do what I was trying to do last year, which is put the cardboard down, no dig style, so that we can have compost in the spring and hopefully figure out some kind of greenhouse situation so that we can actually use these beds. Yeah, things can get a bit like overwhelming when there's too many things to do, so I feel very happy with how much we've done. So many stinging nettles and brambles are gone, and I will see you in the next video. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next gardening vlog.